All right. All right. So we are recording. I also want to give a special thank you to Laura Salentano, who's taking notes today as another way to ensure that anyone who is not able to join us can catch up on the great information we're going to hear from our colleagues at EY today. But before we get into all of that, if you aren't familiar with Teach Access, I wanted to give just a couple minutes of who we are and what we're doing. So we are a nonprofit organization. We were founded back in 2016. And our whole goal is to reach out to faculty, to students like yourselves, and help you all learn and understand about accessibility and disability, so that as you get ready to look for an internship, for a job, perhaps with EY here today, if you get excited about what they're sharing, or really anywhere, you know about these topics and are able to bring that to your work wherever you are. The goal being any products, services, software, hardware, things that you're designing, you design with accessibility in mind from the beginning, so that as the product goes through its life cycle development stage and it's getting ready to ship out, we can avoid those moments of, oh no, we didn't make it accessible, and what do we do now? And so that is our whole mission. Our mission is, how do we support faculty, your instructors, to teach about this in your courses? And how do we create spaces for you as students to also learn? So not just in your classes, which is important, but things like this. So this is our very first ever career development series session. So we're so excited that you're all here today. And of course, there are several more weeks ahead, hearing from other partners as well. And our plan is to continue doing this off and on throughout the year, moving forward. So stay tuned for that. We also have a program called Study Away, and I see some familiar names here of people who've been able to participate in our Study Away, our virtual Study Away. This is, if you think about like a study abroad program, an immersive learning experience where you're able to go to a place, interact with people, interact with the places. That's really how our Study Away program started. And for 2 years, we took students out to Silicon Valley, which is near San Jose, kind of the Bay Area, San Francisco, and visited different companies each day over the course of a week. Since the pandemic, we've moved that program online. It's a virtual offering that we will have again this coming spring. So keep an eye out for that if you'd like to participate. Someday, eventually, we want to get back to in-person Study Away programs. So that will happen when the time is right, when it feels safe, and we're able to get back into some of these companies' places. We have a variety of other programs that maybe are less super relevant to you, that are specifically around how we're helping your faculty and your instructors in teaching. And then also a lot of collaboration with industry. And that's where we find ourselves today, being able to learn from and work with our colleagues here at EY. So I will introduce them in one moment, but just want to reiterate again, we're really excited to have you here. We, as an organization, Teach Access, rely a lot on volunteer support. And so as any of you are interested in getting more involved, we welcome it. As you move into your own careers, if it felt like that was a space that you'd want to come and connect with us, please do, please reach out. And we will take it from there. Like Leslie said, we'll keep an eye on the chat. We ask that you keep yourself muted through the presentation. However, if you do have a question you'd like to ask, you are very welcome to do that. You can raise your hand or put it in the chat that you'd like to ask a question, and then Leslie and I will make sure that Kevin and Gautam are aware of that. Okay, so with that said, there's a message in here in the chat from Sarah, who is a part of Study Away. Thank you, Sarah. She enjoyed it, made some connections, internship. So that is what we're after. Okay, with that said, I would love to introduce to you our presenters today from EY. They've been huge supporters of Teach Access for many years. We can't do this work without them. We're just so thrilled that they're here with us today. So you're going to hear from two people. You'll hear from Gautam Rao, and Gautam is EY's global head of accessibility and is responsible for the firm's accessibility strategy. He's a certified expert in digital accessibility and has more than 20 years of experience in product development, UX design, usability, and accessibility. He established and currently leads the EY Accessibility Center of Excellence, also known as ACE, ACE, which provides accessibility services for internal and external clients. And he is joined by Kevin Grog, who's a product owner for Assistive Technologies, also known as AT, for Ernst & Young, or EY, which is what they go by now, and has occupied the position for 6 years. His primary duty is to provide one-on-one AT services at a distance via Microsoft Teams. Before EY, Kevin worked for 15 years at Shepherd Center, and the last 10 in the Assistive Technology department. He provided AT services for patients with spinal cord injuries or brain trauma. Mr. Grog holds a BS in management from Georgia Tech and an MS in exercise science and biomechanics from Georgia State. So with that said, I'd love to welcome them both. Thank you again, and I will turn it over to you two.
Thank you very much. And I'll talk a little bit here. I'm going to share the screen. And Kate, can you confirm when you see accessibility careers at EY?
I can see it. You're good to go.
Okay, good deal. All right, everybody, I'm going to take one. Well, let's do this. Gautam's listed first. Gautam, go ahead and can you introduce yourself first, and I'll finish out the slide.
I think Kate did such a good introduction that saved some effort from my part. But yeah, we're really happy to partner with Teach Access for a long time now, and I think reaching students is especially satisfying because they have the energy, the passion, and accessibility is something that needs to be done right at the beginning. And I just want to add that I have a disability myself, so it's actually personal, and we are both passionate in taking this forward. So Kevin, over to you.
Great, thanks, Gautam. And everybody, as you can probably tell, Gautam and I intersect pretty much daily in what we do. Now, one thing I'll say, be real quick. Kevin Grog, pronouns he, him, short brown hair, glasses, and thank you all very much for just the opportunity, because you're taking an hour out of your time. And granted, it's been a while since I was in school, but I had to schedule myself to the nth degree because time was precious. And I'm sure it's that way now. So thank you very much for taking your time to listen to us and talk about something maybe a little bit different than what you're getting in your coursework, because we are with EY. Now, EY Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young became EY about 10 years ago. It's probably going to take another 10 years for everybody to really know EY is one of the big 4 accounting companies. Just to let you know, on the right side of our screen, we talk about our company. Full-timers, around 365,000. If you count contractors, we broke 400,000 a couple of months ago, and we are in 150 plus countries. So the way I describe EY is it's easier to tell you where we are not than to list where we are. So we are pretty much everywhere around the world. We are a professional services company first and foremost. We work with, when I talk about assurance, that's auditing. I can tell I am in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Coca-Cola, big company here. The big 4 accounting companies do the books or the taxes and such for large Fortune 500 companies. So just to borrow from my neck of the woods, who does Coke go to do their books? They're going to go to a company like EY. With our tax services, transactions, consulting. Consulting is where we are probably growing the most right now, because we while we identify ourselves, yes, as accounting, we are a technology company first and foremost. The last 2 years, our CEO, Carmine DeCibio, verbally says that. We are a technology company. Technology is in everything that we do. So I hope we bring a little bit of that to you today and echo that. But one of our founders, Arthur Young, he was deaf, had significant low vision. So all he did was found this company that grew over the past 100 some odd years to become what it is today. And Gotham, I'll segue over to you for this.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. And I'd just like to add another company stat is that about 50,000 people are involved in technology, directly or indirectly. So that's a fairly big number. Just flipping to DEI, disability inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion. All those concepts have been, core to EY for a long time. Like Kevin said, one of our founders was disabled himself. And actually, some of this is written into our values document. So every time we do a code of conduct training, refresher, we have to sign off on it. And it's part of our business strategy because we all know it makes good business sense. And accessibility clearly aligns with this DEI agenda. And we have our Chief Diversity Officer also in alignment with this because we need support, beyond technology. We need support from all enterprise functions. So, there's no equity without accessibility. So accessibility really is how we enable or action DEI. And like I said, it's good for business. It improves the user experience for everybody, not just people with disabilities. It enables people to perform better. It, obviously takes care of risk related issues, especially in US with ADA and all those potential litigation issues. Just some numbers out there. So we are participating in many initiatives. So Valuable 500 is something you may have seen, and actually if you Google it, you'll see it. So you're a signatory to that. Many of the large Fortune 500 companies are on that. Our CEO has made a personal commitment. So he is one of the iconic 15 CEOs who have said that they want to prioritize employment for people with disabilities. And then we have some other awards there, and pretty clear. And we'll send this deck out to the participants so we can go into the details on that. So let's go to the next slide. So let's dive in and talk about how we actually kind of action digital accessibility, which is my space in EY. And then I will hand it off to Kevin. He will talk about assistive tech. Now, digital accessibility and assistive tech do go hand in hand, but as you may know, that digital accessibility is kind of broader. It's more at a program level. And I'm mainly working in two roles, right? So there is a tactical aspect, which is all project related, and there's a strategic aspect. And obviously there's much more beyond that, but at a high level, it is these two things. From a tactical point of view, I manage projects that provide accessibility services to both internal and external clients. We were set up to mainly create products accessibly from an internal perspective, but we developed capabilities and skill sets and maturity to an extent that now we started offering it to external clients, right? So an external client will say, we want accessibility testing done. We'll say, yes, we will do it. So I will just provide my team, the Accessibility Center of Excellence team members, and they would actually conduct an accessibility test for an external client. And then obviously beyond testing, and by testing, I mean accessibility testing, where we test against the WCAG guidelines, right? All 50 checkpoints. And so we follow AA. In addition to testing, we also guide front-end developers and UX designers when they are doing their designs or when they are doing their development, so that they apply the best practices during the design and dev phase. We do not want them to just design something give it to developers, and they build something, and then we test it at the end, find out there's a whole bunch of issues, and then scramble around to fix it. You want to move shift, you want to shift left, do everything, bake it in so that it's all done correctly the first time out. And we actually have some analysis where we've discovered that, granted that doing accessibility upfront may have an extra load, but that comes to maybe say 10% extra over the original cost. However, if you build something, test it, and then have to remediate it, we think 20 to 50% cost overruns are possible. So that's a huge number to think about. So when we talk about that, it's much easier to make a business case to have accessibility baked in. Right. So my team additionally also provides training, and we also have identified, online self-paced training that we have all our front-end developers, all our UX designers, all our testers go through. And then again, another technical service is business development. So they do proposal work, getting new business, or supporting our engagement teams or client supporting teams in getting new work. And then on a day-to-day basis, I also talk directly to clients on project-related matters, how they can, what is lacking in the product, what remediation approaches they should take, or how they can better embed accessibility into their processes. So those are all tactical things. And then it's very important that strategically we, push adoption across the firm, right? So like Kevin said, we are 350,000 plus people. We have a lot of different functions and subgroups that kind of work in their own way. So kind of understanding that subculture and figuring out what's the best way to help them get on the accessibility train and get them as quickly as possible on that path is an important part. So at high level, we call it the 3 E's, which is educate, elevate, and embed. So education is very important, right? So you need to think of education, and you as students will always need to think that, people will always come with, may not have complete knowledge, even though they may claim, but you will always have to explain to them and, sell it to it. So at a leadership level, it is more high-level awareness. You're talking about the business cases, you're talking about risk, litigation, bottom line, that kind of stuff. But then, and on the other end of the spectrum, you have technical teams like designers and developers. They need technical training, right? You can't ask them just to go look at a couple of hours of training or some free resources and do it. So they do need, if they don't already have it, they need 20 to 30 hours of deep technical training, which is, and we recommend DQ training for our people. Right, and then everybody in between, also project managers and middle-level management, they also need to be aware of accessibility and how to action it. Right, so for example, a product owner or the program manager just need to say, hey, yes, we need to include WCAG AA as a requirement, right? So that's all. But then the technical teams need to have the training to then implement that. But everything needs to happen, right? So the leadership needs to say, yes, you must do it. The mid-level manager needs to say, yes, the WCAG requirement needs to be there as a must-have requirement. And then the technical teams need to have the training to implement. So everything needs to happen in tandem, right? So the next part is elevating, right? So we need to get away from, guidelines or best practices and say, this is required, right? So we have a policy. So I wrote the policy. It requires that new product development follow WCAG AA. Right. So and then we specify which standard. So it's at a AA level. It's not just doing your best with a level or whatever. And then we also create and we've created these kind of bespoke non-functional requirements, which is accessibility non-functional requirements. So we've rewritten them in a way at high level, just create a dozen requirements, but then deep link them into all the 50 WCAG checkpoints. Because somebody who's just stepping into this may find it overwhelming. So we make that entry, the requirements a little bit easy to understand in plain English first, and then provide all the deep links to the WCAG resources. And the last part, from a strategic perspective, is embedding, right? So, how a sprint team works and where what needs to be done, so that the whole methodology needs to be updated. And then again, different projects or different groups are at different maturity level, so we have to tweak it a little bit on how we do it, right? So so methodology is important. In procurement, when we go and have other companies build websites for us, making that requirement for accessibility and putting into the legal documents, that is important. And then obviously inclusive design, and when our UX designers are doing it, how they think of not just accessibility, but other inclusive design aspects as well, is something that is more strategic. And feel free to interrupt me and Kevin as we speak. So I don't see any thing in the chat yet. So let's continue, Kevin. All right. So just from a student perspective, I thought you might all be interested in how do you get into accessibility, right? So you're already in this call, so that means you do have an interest in it. But at basic level, there would be two pathways. So one is indirect, one is direct. And typically it's been an indirect path. You have, an interest, you keep building that interest, and you kind of do wearing two hats at a time sometimes, and then you're able to transition. And I was such a person, but we're seeing increasingly that universities are offering these courses for accessibility. So possibly you could consider the direct route as well, right? So what do I mean by indirect is, if you're a UX, if you're a UI developer, a front-end developer, engineering, or even sometimes, middleware or backend also, they have enough knowledge about engineering and have an interest in HTML, CSS, ARIA, scripting, all that good stuff. And, they've continued, keeping abreast of the developments in accessibility, and then they're able to actually take on that role, a dedicated accessibility role, and they transition into that. So that is possible. Obviously, if you're a UX designer, this is me. I was a UX designer for the longest time, but for 20 plus years, I kept abreast with accessibility as well. Right, so then I was able to transition into a UX manager role, and then continued that way. You could also come from the product side, product or program side, because you're building products, and if you have a good understanding, you could transition into this. And there are many other avenues as well, and different companies are set up differently. For example, Microsoft has accessibility sitting under legal, right? So corporate and legal. So Jenny LeFleury, the CAO, is in legal. But again, you do need a good tech understanding to take that any career in accessibility. And I'll talk about skillsets in the next slide. The direct route is from low level all the way down to the highest level. That's the hierarchy. So you'll see a lot of openings for accessibility tester, which is basically just testing. And then, specialist is more than just a tester. Sometimes they could wear many hats, testing, as well as guidance on remediation, that kind of stuff. A manager would be the next level, right? So they oversee a team of testers and then help with maybe some training or embedding. And then progression-wise would be a head of accessibility. And then eventually you do want a C-level officer. So not many companies have that. Several tech companies have it, but that is still not that common. Many times accessibility is head of accessibility, then you kind of fit in somewhere else beyond that. So we have a question. Is that right? Just scrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Kate speaking. There's a question in the chat from Sarah. Sarah says, I have a question about certifications. I'm finishing a BS in applied psychology the bulk of which has been focused on disability studies. I also worked early in my career as a UX PM or UX project manager. What certifications do you recommend? I've heard a lot about IAAP and Section 508, etc.
Yeah.
So would love your thoughts on that.
Sure, yeah. So IAAP is the gold standard, right? So yes, I would recommend getting an IAAP certification. That is more valuable than a Section 508 trusted tester cert. And within IAAP, the WAS is more valuable because it is very technical. I mean, you do need to study for it, and they will ask you a lot of questions about screen readers and HTML and ARIA and stuff, but that is more valuable. CPAC is a more basic degree and it's very easy to get, and many people have that, but the WAS, not that many people, and that will show this that you're serious about it. Section 508 is fine, but again, it's quite time consuming to do it. I'm not sure if I had to choose, I would just do WAS. If you didn't have time to do WAS, I would just do CPSC. And Section 508, maybe pieces of it over time, because Section 508 does take a lot of time to complete. So, and I'm happy to answer more details later. Right.
Thanks, Gautam. There's one more question in there, and Kevin and I have been sharing links to those. Hira asks, speaking along the line of certifications, I am a UX designer who has done the CPACC and a few accessibility audits. What other ways can I bring out my accessibility skills and show my passion for it?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, that's the right path, right? So you can, I don't know, look at other products which have glaring accessibility issues and say, look at it from a problem solving perspective, and say, if we had done it this way or that way, because you always have to make the business case, right? So you don't want to be just as a problem pointer, you want to be a problem solver, right? So you can, look for issues where there could be friction down the road, right? For example, if your product is being sold to clients or consumer, somebody can sue you. So you could, look at it from that way, saying, if you had done it this way, or if you had factored accessibility in, you could, make the product better. Yeah, and basically, WCAG has a lot of resources. So there's actually a WAI site, a sub-site. I would read that up from top to bottom. That gives a lot of good information and it's simple to understand. So you need to be appearing as an expert. And that site makes you really present yourself as an expert very quickly. So I would suggest you read that site as well. And we can send that link again. So yeah, I mean, basically showing passion is just talking about it and making the business case clear, right? So it's not just, that we should do it, but, why we should do it, how it makes business sense, how it avoids risk and all that good stuff together.
And Gautam, I'm going to chime in here, please, everybody. This is Kevin. Here, in addition, what you can do is, since you have the CPACC from what we call IAAP, if you have a login with them, log into with your IAAP account, look for committees and or subgroups to see if you can share your experience with that subgroup, because that's going to give you direct contact with others who share sometimes the niche interest that we all have within accessibility at large. So I would recommend try that. Log into your IAAP account, look for their subgroups, or they might be called functional groups.
Excellent. So great question. So let's keep moving. And I think that's my last slide before I hand off. So these are just some random considerations if you're thinking about accessibility. And I just want to go over them, based on my experience, right? So knowledge, what knowledge you need, what skills you need, how these different sectors work, and where you would fit within the organization, right? So from a knowledge perspective, you do need to be an expert in WCAG, right? That's the standard. Everybody references that, whether it's Section 508 or the new EU standards or the Canadian standards or all these European standards, they all reference WCAG. The A and AA checkpoints, you should be completely clear, what it's asking you to do and how you get to it. Test methodology is important. How do you test it, right? So we actually use an enhanced trusted tester method. And again, Kevin, thanks for adding all the links. So, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has published this trusted tester method. It's really well documented, and it's the best documented, consistent way for testing, right? Because otherwise, it's how do you test these checkpoints, right? So there needs to be a regular method to do it, because before this, everybody used to do their own thing. So, so testing methodologies, and then, obviously later that tools and platforms related to testing as well as development, right? So nowadays, a lot of UX design, platforms have some accessibility checkers. Obviously, browsers and have plugins, way of accessibility insights, Axe. And again, I'm throwing names, but feel free to contact me later for details. But yeah, so accessibility plugins which go into the browser, as well as some familiarity with the heavy-duty platforms as well, which may not be easy for you, but something like level access platform or the AXDev platform from DQ, the AMP platform, TPG. So from a company perspective, there are 3 boutique firms which are kind of the top in accessibility. So one is, at least in the US, DQ, and I'm giving them some free publicity. And then TPG, or the Vispero, TPG Vispero, and then the third one would be Level Access. So these are ones we've kind of worked with, at a firm level, and they're all pretty good. So we know that, and those are also places that hire a lot of accessibility professionals. All right, so getting back to my list, understanding code basics is again really important. So understanding some HTML and CSS and ARIA and the new scripting languages. You don't need to be a coder, but you at least need to understand how it works, and what is the accessibility requirement related to the code. From a skill set perspective, so I think in addition to the technical knowledge, I'm focusing on the soft skills. So you really need to be a good communicator and kind of an educator, like I said. You need to constantly be speaking about this, whether it's written communication or talking formally or informally. You need to keep saying your thing, and have some good data and resources and links to back it up. Relationship building is very important. So it's good to find supporters or champions. Obviously, official champions would be better, but even unofficially, if you're developing a career, at the company itself, finding friends or supporters would be good. And then additionally, networking is also really important. So you all can connect with me and Kevin on LinkedIn. And also if you have some good questions, you can ask us that too. But relationship building in your job is also important, because you really need everybody to support you, right? So it sometimes it goes beyond technology. It's not just your little tech world. You may need legal help. You may need procurement help. You may need product or other other places of support as well. So it is actually kind of a top and bottom kind of journey, in the sense that you need grassroots support, because you need your designers and developers to understand and be technical, but then you also need your high-level leaders to support you, right? So without both, it's very difficult. Critical thinking, problem solving is generic, but again, you will never have a formula to do anything. Even within a company, if you've been a long time, you'll come across something which is different and unique, and you'll have to solve for that. And accessibility, especially, because you don't want to be a blocker. You want to be seen as a collaborator. You really have to find a solution. Or we have people coming at the end and saying we need to go to market, right? So the client is waiting for this. What do we do, right? So that kind of problem you have to solve, right? So it could be as simple as, at least let's do a quick baseline audit. We know what needs to be done, what the problems are in the issue, so we can document it, create a high-level remediation plan. So thinking ahead of time is always useful. I am actually way over time, so I'll hand it to Kevin after just talking about these tools quickly. So what I mean by sectors is somebody like a Microsoft, which is in tech, they're very advanced. So you'll have a lot of positions. Somebody like a Kaiser in healthcare are taking accessibility seriously. They'll have some jobs, but not as many. And then tier 3 are the others, which are just starting the accessibility journey. A location just talks about where you will sit within the organization, right? So you could be sitting in engineering or UX design or testing, or you could be in the product or legal. So that's just showing you where you would sit, right? That's just some high level. So Kevin, sorry I took some time, but over to you. Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it. Everybody, Gotham and I do very different jobs, but we intersect almost daily. Whereas Gotham's going to be working, and Gotham's team of testers are going to be looking at how do we either fix accessibility at the code level, or build, ideally you build it in before it goes out the door. So there's a lot of both of those. What goes on every day in the workaday world is, of those 400,000 people within EY, we have health and medical that's going to impede usage of our IT stuff. So what I get to do is I get to do this on a global scale. So we talked about the 150 companies. I think I've worked with people from at least like 75 or 80 countries so far. So it's a great global perspective, and you learn a lot just outside of the AT, as I'll call it, for assistive technology. You learn a lot more beyond that. But what we're going to do, the cornerstone of our AT service, it's one-to-one help. Now, I tell everybody, we're not going to solve health and medical with a bot or over email. So as long as the customer is willing to do so, we'll meet. We meet virtually live like this, one-to-one via Teams, and I get to work with whomever, wherever, our customers throughout the company. It doesn't matter rank, doesn't matter geography, and actually, when you have health and medical involved, it's amazing how quickly rank and such just falls by the wayside, because health and medical is just so unique and so personal to each of us. So, but what we do, I'll go real quick into the 4 bullet points, is, when we work with our customers, can we come up with a workaround? Someone will come to me and say, Kevin, I'm having trouble with XYZ because of something in the health or medical. Well, can we find a workaround? Is there something, something through our IT knowledge that we can do to give someone an alternate way? Because of course, in the Windows operating system, there's 18 different ways to do everything in Windows. So is there something we can do that gives you another way of achieving your goal, getting your work done? But maybe it's a little, maybe we take a different path. We've invented new things, or do I need to hand it off to Gotham and say, Gotham, the technology as it is right now doesn't exist to fix this right here, right now. So then we can switch to non-technical ways, because there are sometimes we're not going to say there's a tech solution for everything out there. So we have non-technical ways. Can we have someone personally assist somebody else when something truly is inaccessible, but they only need to get over the hump? What can we do that might not be tech in nature? So we keep that in mind as well, knowing we love our technology, we love our bots and our automation, do more with less, yes. But at the same time, tech is not always going to be an answer, or maybe the most efficient answer, because everybody's going to be unique. So everybody I work with, even though the referral might look the same, it's never the same. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. Now, Gotham mentioned he works with external clients. I always need to bring up, I do not. And the reason why is, even though I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not PT, physical therapist, OT, occupational therapist, the advice that I give can be construed as medical advice. And I have the umbrella of liability because I work for EY. So within EY, in good shape there. But if I start giving that same advice externally, then that opens up EY to liability. So I would need to be in my own business and such if I'm going to do anything like that. So that's why I really have to stick to just my customers being EY. As you can probably guess, though, I got about 400,000 customers or potential customers, so it keeps us busy. Strategic, I'm going to bring up one specific thing from EY. Advantage of a big company, we have something called an EY App Store. Now, we have various pieces of assistive technology software available for global request, global download, no prerequisites or anything like that, no pre-approvals necessary, but some things I'm going to look at. What can we add to that store as time goes by? So if you want to use Dragon, naturally speaking, you can go to it within the EY App Store, you request it, it downloads to your machine, you use it. You don't have to let anybody know about it whatsoever, because we know many times it's tough to self-identify. We're not going to get rid of it. We're not going to get rid of that stigma overnight. So, but best thing we can do is be a constant in that field, to where we do not judge. Happy to talk with you, one-to-one. But at the same time, if you want to try out something where only you are involved with it, feel free. We offer this to you. But also, if I'm working with somebody, maybe instead of working with Dragon, naturally speaking, maybe we can use the MS Dictate that's already built into Outlook, already built into Word. Because if that's going to satisfy the customer, maybe we don't need to spend the money on the licenses for Dragon. So, we're always going to be there trying to save money as well when appropriate. Because if it's something that when you already have in Windows, let's help you with what you already have on your system if it does the job. We're always looking to expand the service. As you can probably guess, 400,000 people, not everybody has heard of assistive technology by any stretch. We're competing against the workaday stuff that someone has to do, all the stuff they were hired to do. Maybe a lot of people aren't going to be aware of assistive technology many times unless the need arises. So we want to be there, as a just-in-time service for whenever it might be needed. I'll go over a couple things here as far as career pathways. You can probably guess. Kate, thanks for reading the intro for me. Everybody, I have a business degree from Georgia Tech. Everybody assumes I'm an engineering grad. Let them do it. That's fine. But sometimes I have a graduate degree, exercise science and biomechanics. Yeah, what does that have to do with what I'm doing now? Well, the point there, Assistive Tech was not a major whatsoever when I came through. And it's taught. It's taught as a program at what we call CSUN, which is California State University Northridge, and there is a CSUN annual conference every March that really brings a lot of your tech / engineering areas, and how they work with assistive technology accessibility. So assistive technology is very flexible. You do not have to go through a certain path to participate and be successful in this field by any stretch. I'll say in the column where I have indirect, it borrows tech stuff that's helpful from electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. As you can guess, I know a lot of engineers. So it helps to have the engineering background that I have, but you don't necessarily have to have the degree. Maybe you come from a computer science background, Gotham, UX designer. Maybe you write code every day, or maybe you've been doing this for years and that is your passion. Coding with accessibility in mind, making the world easier for everybody else, not just now, but 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. I can also come from a healthcare background, something called DME. We learned a lot about durable medical equipment. If working with wheelchair users, knowing the ins and outs of that helped me do my job better in assistive tech, because there is more to helping somebody than just knowing your zeros and ones of IT. It's a lot of psychology. Gotham talked about relationship building, because you're working, I worked with patients. I work with patient families with a catastrophic spinal cord injury. there's nothing that prepares you for how to encounter, how to address that situation. So what you do is it's a lot of relationship building. I tell people at EY, and same when I worked at Shepherd, I probably have 7 seconds to gain somebody's trust. And you're working with most personal stuff there can be. So it's very, first impressions are everything. Teaching, I'll say you'll find product management's what I do right now in EY. I'm responsible for all the assistive technology products and making sure they're well known, making sure we can add to them as well. The last thing I'll cover is teaching. Assistive tech, you'll find the most assistive tech professionals in the education field. One reason, it's mandatory if included. I'll throw one more acronym in here, an IEP, an individual education plan. If that is recommended on an IEP, you have the school system has to provide it. So you'll have more assistive technology professionals in the education area than other areas. Last thing I'll put is from the right side of the screen, you can move from being an AT specialist, an AT manager. An AT director can be a head of accessibility. It's a niche within accessibility. So you can go all the way up to being a chief accessibility officer from doing what Gotham does or doing what I do. It's having an awareness of the WCAG Web Content Accessibility Guidelines standards or such. I do have to know those. Gotham's going to know a whole lot more than me, but I need to have an awareness of those, what those 50 are and how they can play in to accessibility and to helping individuals one-to-one. Last slide I have, then we'll turn it over to Q&A. Knowledge, it's highly varied. You don't have, Echo as said before, you don't have to come through XYZ to be successful in this field. It does help to know specialty software and hardware though. User trends, user and health trends. For instance, I'll just say many more people who've been diagnosed with diabetes now and project to be diagnosed with diabetes in the future. Where does that fit in for assistive technology with smart home technology and such? Checking your blood sugar from home, maybe that's automatically sent to the doctor, which exists now, but you can refine that over time to make the process easier for your customers. It's a combination of IT and health and medical. And skills, same thing Gotham talked about. Yeah, networking, relationship building is everything, especially when you're working with anybody who is coming to you. And I'll stop with this. Folks who are coming to me, they're not coming to me at a high time of their lives. They're coming to me because something is not going well. And how can you help me be more productive, succeed in my job when I'm having a hard time doing that because of something health and medical? So I'll go ahead and round out there. So we have about 8 minutes for Q&A, and I'll stop sharing now.
This is Kate speaking. Oh, sorry, Leslie, did you want to go?
You can go.
Okay, hi, this is Kate. Thank you both so much for sharing all of that. I know there is a lot of information also being shared in the chat. And again, thank you to Laura, who's been capturing some of the notes that will go out after this session. But we do have a couple questions coming in the chat, so I'll read those. If you would like to ask your question out loud, feel free to raise your hand or let us know, and we'll make sure you can do that. But first question came in from Hira. Hira says, thank you so much for such a detailed session. I might have missed this, but I was wondering what, quote, area of EY does accessibility and UX come in? Would it be technology, which is one of the areas listed on the website, or does it have a separate product team?
Yeah, I can take that. So yeah, so it does. I sit within technology. I mean, there's a lot of technology which is built outside the technology function as such, but I sit within technology, and technology has a lot of UX developers. UX designers and developers, but there are a lot of developers and designers outside technology in our service lines as well. But I'm in charge of making sure everybody, includes that in their processes and gets trained, and their overall roadmap and strategy. Yeah. So it's technology.
Yep. Same here. Same here. Gotham and I, while we're not in the same, our org charts are a little bit different, but we're both in technology, and that's something that's different from excuse me, from company to company. A lot of companies will have positions similar to ours housed in HR, or what we call talent at EY. We're a little bit unique that we house everything inside technology. I'll toot our own horn here for a second. There's advantages to that, because some of the things that I have worked on even in the last week require pretty good IT background to troubleshoot and such. And that might be difficult if you're not experienced in the IT area and troubleshooting. So I think we have some definite advantages by having both of us housed in IT.
Thank you both.
All right, thank you. I was gonna say there was another question. If time permits, could you share more about the role of the EY Accessibility Center of Excellence? And then with that, at EY, are there career roles that focus on accessibility related research and innovation, or is the overall emphasis more on incorporating existing accessibility guidelines and practices into your products?
Oh, great question. So the Accessibility Center of Excellence is what I would call our crack team, right? So when we have really large projects, I would assign someone from my team to that project and make sure that accessibility is baked in throughout. And then once they learn that process, then I pull my resource out, right? So that is the operating model of the Center of Excellence, because we are kind of a shared resource. We give our expertise to everybody, but we basically telling people or teaching people how to fish, right? So that's the idea. On the second thing, yes, so we are definitely interested in pushing the accessibility agenda into new areas. Primarily, it's myself and Kevin, right? So we take part in other initiatives, including such as Teach Access. Now there's XR Access. Larry Goldberg has set that up as well. So we are, the great thing about the accessibility industry as such, or domain, is all the senior people are very open to sharing. And, every conference we go meet and share ideas. We did this, we did that. Kevin and I are presenting in enabling a new conference. We're going to meet a whole bunch of people there. So we, that's the way we try to advance the agenda. But we do not do core user research like UX research or that kind of research, if that's what you mean. All right, and we are hiring. Yes, so employer, yes. So EY does. Me and Kevin both work remote most of the time. We do go into the office as needed. I am in New York. He's in Atlanta. But so we do. So a lot of jobs are posted as remote. And I am actually hiring for an accessibility manager. It's not. It's a mid-level position. So the fresh students would probably not be a good candidate. But and that's remote.
Okay, and I know we're coming close on the end, but there was one more question. What are the roles and responsibilities of a UX designer? What are some of the day-to-day tasks other than conducting audits and testing?
Sure. So the UX designer's role from an accessibility perspective is just making sure that their UX designs are accessible, right? So you color contrast and heading structure and whatever you do in your wireframes or mockups, it needs to be accessible. And then also you need to specify things like hour states and other things to the developer and make sure that they put it in, right? Keyboard, key sequence and access and all that stuff. If you are doing audits, that's great, right? So that's, again, I think that's upskilling. So if you're good enough to understand, say, the trusted tester methodology, and that link I can send you, right? So if you understand how that is to be done, then you can actually help your developer conduct the test, because then you need to look into the real code and run some tests, so check the code and check various things, and then you can create a report, right? So that's a great way to advance and learn more about accessibility. No longer just a UX designer, and that's exactly my career path.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I think we are running out of time. So I did just want to give a big thank you to Gotham and Kevin for the presentation today. It was great. And they did say to connect on LinkedIn, which we shared in the chat, but I will also send it in a follow-up email, their LinkedIn profile. So make sure to connect. That's just a great way to grow your network. And make sure you attend next Friday. So next Friday, we will have the Walmart e-commerce team talking about infusing accessibility into your career. So that should be another great presentation next Friday, October 14th, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So we hope that you will be able to join us. And again, early next week, I will send a follow-up email with the notes and recording from this presentation. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great day.